Hi, welcome to Uniform Health, the fitness channel that takes a holistic approach to diet and exercise. So, what we're going to be talking about today is a topic of dirty bulking. So, eating as much calories as you need, wherever they're from, as processed as they come. All the chocolate ice cream that you want, all the fried potato chips and French fries and all the processed foods essentially. And as long as you get your calories and your protein, body weight your body weight in grams of protein, then that's essentially fine. That's what dirty bulking advocates. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. You're going to gain the same amount. And I'm here to advocate against that. It's difficult to say how much my approach will benefit you, because it depends upon how dirty your dirty bulk is and things. But, I would argue as much as a 10, 15, 20% increase in your bulking gain. Possibly more. It's really hard to say. I actually haven't applied this approach ever. I'm applying it to myself, but I don't have a control group, unfortunately. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, what we're going to be talking about mainly is a topic of inflammation. I've discussed this before in a little bit in calories. A calorie isn't a calorie, or calorie versus calorie versus calorie. And also in alcohol and cigarettes and muscle building. So basically, we always have inflammation in our body at some level. And when we exercise, after we've exercised, we create an environment that is inflamed. So after we've worked your muscles out really hard or whatever, your muscles become inflamed. And what I mean by that is that there's histamine releases, there's cytokines, there's alarmines, and things like tumor necrotizing factor, which is really what we're going to be talking about mainly today. So these are all things that go on every time we lift and every time we do things, and it's difficult to say, okay, so there's inflammation that's always happening when we work out, so isn't inflammation good? Could it potentially help us? And in some aspects it can. Inflammation isn't all bad. But what is, basically all bad, is systemic inflammation, long duration of inflammation, and also tumor necrotizing factor. Elevations in tumor necrotizing factor and simple systemic inflammation is negatively affecting your health. These are things that are strongly related to muscle wasting in older individuals, and also and also stress levels. So the more stressed out you are, the more increased in tumor necrotizing factor, and obviously, when you're extremely stressed out, it's difficult to gain weight. Also, from a perspective of cortisol is elevated, and that inhibits the release of testosterone, which we know to be a proponent to gaining muscle building, or gaining muscle. So, it's a pretty complicated thing, but how does this relate? Inflammation's a pretty complicated thing, but so how do all these complicated factors, these cytokines and these tumor necrotizing factors, alpha specifically, how does this really affect us? And when we dirty bulk, when we dirty bulk, we've actually are typically ingesting a lot more cooked vegetable oil, which is oxidized, and that actually has an inflammation effect on our body. All these studies will be linked below, and they'll be pretty heavily supported, I believe. I have at least 2 or 3 on basically all the topics I'm going to be discussing. So, again, this oxidation of these cooked vegetable oils is extremely negative for our health. That's going to be in your ice cream. That's going to be, or not ice cream, sorry. That's going to be in your, your cakes. That's going to be in your, the worst thing you could probably eat is potato chips and French fries. One of the reasons, not only are these vegetable oils and things being oxidized, and not only is this part damaging towards our health, but also there's something being created called acrylamide through the actual cooking process. And this is a known carcinogen and also a known pro-inflammatory compound. So, and you can imagine, I'm not going to continue to sit here and give you every single example, but you can imagine as you go through this look and view of what you would typically eat in a dirty bulk, these are all foods and things that would generally promote inflammation and promote an environment that would increase your tumor necrotizing factor and thereby promote muscle wasting, or at the least not allow you to maximize your gains. So the other aspect of this is actually, it's been shown, this is actually supported only by one study, but it's been shown that when you're unable to sense tumor necrotizing factor, you become basically an insomniac. So there were some mice that were able to not sense the tumor necrotizing factor, and they basically became insomniacs, but that factor kept increasing. So this is one of the things that's very important, is that we get enough sleep, because it decreases this tumor necrotizing factor. And also typically when we're really tired, it's probably because you're more inflamed. Another reason why you should really get some sleep. The other thing is when we're highly stressed, again, this is supported by a study, there was an instance where the tumor necrotizing factor was at a lower state when we're severely stressed. Because we have means of, when we're severely stressed, of actually suppressing our immune response. But this only lasts so long. Once these individuals, if these were medical students, there were like 17 medical students about to take an exam, and they had blood tests. Up to the test, their necrotizing factor was decreasing. Until after the test, they actually had a systemic response of inflammation. And these were healthy individuals. And the necrotizing factor shot way up. So one may argue that, okay, well then I should always remain stressed, and this isn't necessarily the case. Obviously, the things I mentioned before, sleep would be negatively impacted, and these things. But the important thing to note here is that these were healthy individuals. When you're not healthy, this is arguable, when you're not healthy, you don't have the same anti-inflammatory capabilities. So you can't suppress the tumor necrotizing factor, and even if you do, obviously, with this evidence I proposed to you, that it's still going to increase their tumor necrotizing factor. So you really are suffering on multiple levels when you're consuming products that are inflammatory, because the inflammatory compounds are going to inhibit your your energy levels. They're going to inhibit your obviously your muscle gains. They're going to inhibit your sleep, which again, we know how important that is for testosterone and a multitude of other things. And so we really need to understand sometimes when we're tired and we're not sleeping well, that could be related to what you're eating. And it's about changing what you're eating in order to sleep better. When you eat better, you can sleep better, and when you sleep better, you can exercise harder, and you get more energy because you're sleeping better, and it's a holistic cycle, and you break it first with what you're eating. So now how do we counteract this? How do we go about sort of changing this in a positive light? What should I be consuming? And what you should be consuming is antioxidants. So basically just eat your salads, eat your fruits and vegetables, and this is going to have a positive effect on the systemic inflammation that your dirty bulk is having. And it's important to do this, obviously, for the reasons I said before. So just have an avoidance of cooked foods, and if you are going to really, I mean, you obviously need your chicken and stuff, so how I would suggest you prepare these meat products is I would, I shouldn't say obviously, but how many people bulk as they eat meat. So if you are going to consume meat, I would prepare that not on your barbecue, but in a pan and with a little bit of water in that, and then steam it. So put a cover on top and then heat that water, and then it'll steam and actually become very moist. And the water, the steam, actually doesn't have as harsh of a heat and actually inhibits some of the oxidative properties that occur when you overheat a product and pan fry it, or high temperature grill it. So and eat your monosaturated fats, and just try and focus on a lot of things that you would innately know to be beneficial or heard of to be beneficial. For the most part, just try and avoid overly cooked foods, overly processed foods, consume your fruits and vegetables, and do this steaming aspect, and you'll be in a much less inflamed state, and a state that will allow your body to actually promote growth. And it's important to remember that inflammation can also, in the respect of when we're working out, there's anabolic effects of inflammation and catabolic effects of inflammation, of these cytokines and things, but that's really not that important, because what we're focusing is, without a doubt, tumor necrotizing factor is something that has been shown in all these studies that I looked at, and in all the studies that showed directly that the negative effects of it, to be the largest issue. And though these other, you could get all intricated about it and get the cytokines and things, really what we're going to want to worry about is lowering this tumor necrotizing factor, and that's what's going to be your largest concern for muscle gains. So thank you very much, and the other bad stuff will likely decrease when you're consuming the proper foods, and you probably become in a more anabolic environment. So that said, thank you very much for coming to Uniform Health, and I hope you check out my other videos and subscribe and rate, and yeah, thank you very much.